review that film, if you're so great.
Hey guys, do you think they know to hit the subscribe button?
I think this movie's sorely lacking in several areas.
That was amazing. Hey, it's a Spark of Badass. Definitely subscribe. Hi, I'm Matt. That's Ben. Oh.
Hey, Matt, do you want to switch places with him? Oh, you're way ahead of me. I am a great magician. Camera 2.
Ben's not here.
Let me just fix you up here.
Here we go. I'm going to take
There
Ben's
we
spot.
go.
Ben's spot for today. Ooh.
Things are
Fancy.
now changed. Okay.
No, Ben is not here. He is in Puerto Rico.
Yes, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and he sent a picture of him at like a beautiful waterfall.
And he didn't send it to me. Love it.
Yeah. So
Thanks, Ben.
we'll see if he comes back from there now once he hears the movies we're doing on this show now.
No, it's great. We don't need a third. We'll have a nice, intimate affair about a very good movie.
We have multiple people watching for this. So I'm just assuming that the graphics, the lead-in, there has been just an unrealized podcast potential for today's episode, Aaron.
Well,
which
it's not just that. What not everyone realizes is just how much everyone loves this movie. They're just afraid to admit it most of the time.
we're gonna get into all of it. Aaron said when we were trying to choose if we were gonna do this, that I don't know if we could fill a whole episode. And then immediately after, I was like, I've got a lot of things to say, and I don't think it's gonna go the same way you're.
Well, I explained it. This movie is part of my DNA, so it's hard for me to articulate things. It's just such a part of my life.
So today, if you're new to our show, we review a movie, and at the end we'll give our rating for it. So stick around for the very end. But there was no vote. This was purely internal, and so today we're gonna do Kung Pao Enter the Fist. Aaron, do you want to give people a brief overview if they haven't seen the movie?
Right. Let me pull up the very long synopsis that you wrote. Hold on. Okay. Let me see if I can do this. Let me get into character here. Kung Pao. The effects aren't on. There. Kung Pao. Fing. Pung. Kissed. Enter? Enter? Okay. These are the chaotic action sounds you may hear in the 2002 American martial arts comedy film Kung Pao Enter the Fist, which parodies Hong Kong action cinema. I prefer the term Hong Kong Phooey. The film was written by Steve Oedekerk, who is best known for his collaborative work with Jim Carrey in the 90s, as well as the Thumbmation? They call it Thumbmation?
Thumbmation. Yeah, Thumbmation.
I know all about Thumb Wars, but Thumbmation?
Yeah, get ready to say
It sounds
that a
like they're
couple
saying
times.
summation with a lisp. Do you like our Thumbmation? Anyway.
Work that in here in a minute.
And the film stars Steve Oedekerk, who, you guessed it, is best known for his collaborative work with... What? Did I do that already? I am doing too many asides. Enter the Fist uses footage from the 1976 Hong Kong martial arts film Tiger and Crane Fists, also called Savage Killers, along with new footage shot by Steve Oedekerk to create an original unrelated plot. The formatting on this is terrible. The film was a moderate box office success, grossing $17 million worldwide and received largely negative critical reviews, but has since become a cult film, and as of 2015, a sequel has been in the works entitled Kung Pao 2, Tongue of Fury, which will also be written by Steve Oedekerk, best known for his collaborative, nothing.
You skipped over me trying to make you say he collaborated with Jim Carrey.
Oh, did I skip that?
You skipped like 3 versions
Well,
of
I
that.
saw the collaborative with that. It was very repetitive.
I know.
You tripped me up.
I was trying to make it miserable for you to read.
You
that.
and me tripped me up.
That's right. But no. So written, directed, starring,
produced,
edited, everything seems to be Steve
Oedekerk is this movie.
Yeah. If I may give, so obviously it's takes footage from an old Hong Kong action movie and they intersplice it together into a comedy. Would you like to hear my synopsis of this movie? Like a better, like more real version for people if they want to cut straight to the point?
My only question is, do you want the reverb on you too?
No.
Okay.
Mine's a little more... maybe you could do that like the opposite, like suck the air out.
That's already been done in this room. Go ahead.
So if I were to describe this movie to somebody else, because I'd never seen it, I kept confusing it with Kung Fu Hustle, honestly, but then Kung Pao. And
Very different
Then I kind of very different. So if you're brand new, think of, okay, Kevin Nealon's stunt actor is watching for the very first time an episode of Mystery Science Theater. And he says, I really want to do that. And so he creates a demo reel of Mystery Science Theater riffs to like something he recorded last night. And it's this Hong Kong movie, and it's really funny. He sends it in, and they're like, well, no, we're not going for it. So he gets really mad. So Kevin Nealon's stunt double decides to make the whole movie on his own. And then about halfway through it, he's like, you know what would make this about 100% better? Me being in it.
Me, baby. Me.
So put me in it. And you know what, Aaron? It all was pretty... I won't say it was... I'm not going to give... we won't get to the spoilers, but it was pretty dang funny. It was pretty funny.
I was very worried what your response would be because you said you'd never seen it last week, and I thought that was why we had to do it, because we had an open week, and you have never seen it.
That's right.
How?
Pow. I don't know. I remember very vividly though when it came out. I remember the ads,
the commercials.
For it. So they obviously spent money on it when we were,
Hey, how much money would you say they spent on it? Would you say 10 million?
That's exactly right. Yes. Now, how? Aaron, but like, so it did. They spent a lot of money on it. You could see with the. We'll get into the effects here in a minute, but just in general, the way they superimposed him into the footage was pretty. A lot of places, it wasn't. There were a couple places where it was like, okay, that was really bad.
There's two things to consider here. A, they didn't have a lot of money, and B, this was 17 years ago.
I didn't think it was that bad.
A lot of the time, it's if you're not looking for it, you won't see it.
I thought it was pretty good.
Right.
I actually thought more often than not, they superimposed him entirely into the scene.
A lot of the time, it's just his head.
And it's just his head, which you see in the credits when like they show like how they spliced the original, then their blue screen, and then how they spliced it together. But I thought it was pretty impressive how they did some of that.
I did some of my original effects, the shot learning by taking the footage from the credits of this movie and redoing it in the old footage, like doing my own version of the shot and seeing if I could replicate what they did.
Yeah,
it's a good way to learn.
Yeah. So Aaron, before we started, we were talking a lot about this movie before we started.
It's hard
this
not to.
And I think just I don't remember the exact words, but it was basically pure uncut joy from you. So
yes. Well,
when you think of this movie, I guess, what just immediately bubbles to mind for you?
Bird. Birdie. Tiger.
This is like the most just giddy, like
exactly. Just saying those words makes me happy.
I think we just need to reel off like a handful of scenes. So,
by the way, Matt, one of our commenters, I'm gonna get this wrong, but it's Seal Osbone says your clothes are red. How are your clothes still blue?
I don't know.
Seal Osbone.
It's only between red and black, as you recall.
Oh, was it? It wasn't blue in the movie.
Black,
okay, it was blue. It was black.
Yes, which was another. So maybe that's where we should start. Is the many times that they made an effort to connect jokes together by like coming up with some ridiculous moment,
Right.
so they could splice footage together to make the story work.
That is one of the most
being one of them.
extreme examples where they completely throw out logic. But there's other ones, like I told you before the show, like when Ling goes, that's just Steve Oedekerk trying to fill her mouth with sounds for the rest of the scene.
We didn't even say so. The other part of this it's not just like Mystery Science Theater over like making
Not
jokes.
at all, no.
It's actually like
This is a consorted editing effort.
yeah, it's all dialogue is replaced, but also even the fake footage that they put in, the new footage they put in of Steve Oedekerk in real day versus the old ones, it's all dubbed poorly. Like it's all
yeah.
even the things where they shot intentionally, they intentionally said the words
Right,
wrong in real life, and then they dubbed it incorrectly.
On the DVD, you can listen to the "What Were They Really Saying" track.
Were they real lines of dialogue, or were they just funny riff?
They usually had like little euphemisms for certain things that they would use every time. So whenever someone says "the chosen one," what they're really saying is "the hot cross bun."
That's funny.
People don't realize how complicated and how much love went into this movie. This movie's complicated.
One of my favorite, and it's a joke that's been a couple. Anytime you do a dub of making fun of dubs, like bad old dubs, it's the one where it's somebody talks for a long time in silence, and then it's just like, yeah,
I don't know.
It's just like one word at the end of like this long sentence. Every time that kills me.
But the thing about this movie is there are lots of spoofs of like kung fu movies out there. And the bad dubbing is about as deep as any of them gets.
Well, I wouldn't even. So
this movie, the bad dubbing barely scratches the surface of what this movie does.
I don't even think that. So for a minute. Okay, I'm going to set this up and then we'll go into the scene that I think questions it.
Okay.
I think for 90% of this movie, it stayed away from being like a scary movie, scary movie. All the ones where it's like we're trying to make a parody of this genre, and we're
going to do it very
stuff
unfunnily.
And it's just dumb and kind of overstuffed and hokey.
Going on record now, scary movie 1 through 10, they suck.
Yes, agreed. This movie didn't do that. I will say the 10% where it.
I think I know.
The 10% where it's like, all right, come on.
The
was
cow.
The CGI cow. So this was, if I were to cap off my synopsis earlier of Kevin Nealon, it's that he's like 90% done with the movie, and he's like, you know what, Kevin Nealon stunt double. He's looking in the mirror, and he's like, there's just something missing. And he looks down and he sees in the reflection like a glass of milk. He's like, I know it.
I think I can work a
Bolt
Matrix
of
parody
lightning.
in here.
I can work in a cow Matrix. And that's where it was like that whole sequence where, because if you thought, person who hasn't seen this movie, that you would, sit through all 83 minutes or however long.
It's like 72.
And not get a CGI kung fu cow fight with him, and like none of the original footage. It's just
no, that's all new.
This was just Steve Oedekerk wanted to fight a CGI cow, and that happens in this movie for about 10 minutes.
Did he really want
Not
to
10
though?
minutes. Did he? I don't know.
I
You
don't
tell
know.
me. You listen to the commentary.
I did listen to the commentary, and the most I got out of that I can recall is that he definitely did not want to do the Matrix joke. That was the producers.
Here's where I think Steve Oedekerk could not have signed on fast enough to the CGI cow, and it's because I think he's won an Emmy since now, but he's been doing a lot of work.
Well, he does a lot of stuff.
He's been doing a lot of work with Nickelodeon.
I think he was part of the Barnyard series.
For the Back to the Barnyard series.
Which has a cow.
I think he's got a thing. And at the end, where they part of the 70 minutes of this movie is a teaser for the sequel that is just now getting off the ground.
Well, okay, go on.
In that he's fighting all the barnyard animals.
I see you've brought your friends this time.
It's like a goat and chicken and stuff.
And they do the kung fu poses. It's great. I believe he's been trying to make this movie since as early as 2004. The sequel,
The sequel, yeah.
It's had IMDb pages for years. I check on it every year to see if they get any further.
It's an annual tradition for Aaron. Shinaraku says the cow scene ages the film. Movie would be 10 out of 10 without it. Yep.
I would get, okay, I don't give 10 out of 10s. I've reiterated that over and over.
Yep.
It would be very close to perfect, I would say. Although the weakest part of the movie is probably the opening.
Ooh, I was about to disagree. I disagree.
Really?
I thought the weakest part by far is the CGI cow.
Agreed.
I could come up with a couple others. The CGI for the somebody else, our friend Seal Osbone, put in Simba, which there's also a
what now?
There's a Mufasa, except like coming from the clouds to talk to Steve Oedekerk, and except it's Moshe Fasa.
CNN.
Yeah. Simba.
Have you noticed that the CGI for that character changes as the scene goes on?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it looked like crap, and then at one point
And
I was
then
like, "Hey, that looks pretty
fur.
good. That looks pretty good right there." And then it's like, "Oh no, now it looks bad again."
Oh boy.
So I actually liked the start, and it was entirely because of
rolling down
the baby. And this woman, this baby rolls down this muddy, rocky cliff for like a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden it stops, and you think it's over, and this woman picks it up, and it's like,
So
oh,
cute.
and you think this is the start of like, oh, we're gonna see him get raised. He's like, so cute, and then just tosses him down the mountain again. Just goes bye bye.
In the commentary, Steve Oedekerk describes that as a very Buddhist concept of who am I to stop this baby's rolling.
That's pretty good. Cho Simba. That's another good line. Very good.
Know the symbols, Cho Simba.
So, Aaron, if you had to pick, what would be your weakest part? I guess
The opening
maybe,
is pretty weak, except for that rolling down the hill part. And the dubbing is actually correct in that scene.
yes, it is.
Until Betty shows up, the dubbing is correct.
And that CGI didn't date it, even though it was very much that old dancing baby look for a while. But
For some of it, it's like,
baby
how did they get it
fights-
to look this good?
But it actually looked all right to me.
Some
Like,
of it's like, it's better than it should look.
they show this like the baby running up the arm, and you just see the legs, and then it kicks him.
Well,
and
when the
stuff,
baby
and-
runs up the arm, it's just two stick legs.
Well, so that stuff is funny to me.
Similar joke when they're doing the big fight in the beginning, and the guy's running away from the chosen one, and there's just this leg kicking at him. Yeah. That's so simple but so funny. Ooh, before I forget.
Yes.
Another behind the scenes tidbit. The Cho Simba CNN Mushu Fasa scene. The close-ups of Steve Oedekerk in that scene were shot after they ran out of money for the movie on his home video camera in his backyard. And they had to take that mini DV footage to a film house to have it transferred to 35 millimeter.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh, here's that candle scene in our video.
Then he told me
Oh wait,
the
no, this isn't it.
significance.
This isn't it.
Which one are you talking about?
This is a different one.
Okay.
This might have even been the original footage.
Yeah, it was.
Here's my favorite line in the movie, which we talked about. There's a couple, but this is my favorite line. That's a lot of nuts.
It's so perfect.
At one point, at the culmination of the movie, because by the way, there's aliens too at the very end, which I wasn't
They're
a big
French.
wasn't a big fan of that actually. Like
They throw in little tidbits of it early in the movie.
Did they?
When he's walking away from when he's walking to the pasture with the cow, and you can still hear Ling like crying like from miles away.
Okay.
When he's walking in the distance or away from the camera, way off in the distance, you can see one of those little pyramids flying through the sky.
Oh, you're right. You're totally right. I remember that.
See,
Yeah.
they set it up. They're smart.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, so this scene is before the alien pyramid council that runs Betty, who's the villain, who they also named, whose stunt double that they got, just his bald wig was so bad. I hope it was intentional because it was like
Doggy hump.
but
He just left with nuts. Thank you, Seal Osbo.
So there's this Steve Oedekerk's coming back to do the final showdown, and for some reason he stops into this little store and buys a bag of nuts, like peanuts. And
Why is he doing this?
This guy, the store clerk, just shouts. That's a lot of nuts, just abruptly.
And the recording is bad. He clipped the mic when he recorded.
That's why I thought it was so funny.
And they thought,
that's
just
a lot of nuts.
Never getting that performance again. Keep it.
But I will actually say the follow up that you're saying he just left with nut and is on the phone. I was telling Aaron before that
it could have been
cut the joke just a little bit. I would have loved if the only thing is he walks into a store, buys peanuts, somebody screams, "That's a lot of nuts," and he leaves, and that's just it.
My only defense of that scene is he just left with nuts is some kind of indication that this will be threaded through to a moment later.
Exactly, which it does in a very cool payoff.
Your soft, furry body cushioned the blow.
Because Steve Oedekerk gets he doesn't get shot, right?
He gets palmed in the
punched,
chest or something.
And then after the battle's over, he just pulls out this squirrel armor that's been with a big handprint in it.
And he has a very unique connection with animals. I can't believe we haven't brought up his gopher chucks from early in the movie.
Gopher chucks? I thought you were going to say the dog that follows him around that I thought was hysterical.
I mean, who doesn't have a dog following him around?
It's just randomly, no setup in any scene, and they'll just look off to the side.
He has a furry friend.
This dog's looking up at him. They had a lot of those kind of random airplane kind of jokes in it.
You know what else is a weak part of this movie now that I'm reminded?
Hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
The one boob chick.
I thought that was bad too. I thought that whole thing could have been scrapped.
It's more or less funny, but it's less funny than it is funny. Like the part where they're fighting is kind of funny. Everything else though. When she starts doing backflips away from him, and then when she finishes the backflips, he's right there.
Yeah,
start
did
fighting her.
the full went around the globe or something.
Not even that. She went straight back.
That was funny. They had a couple good gags, but
like when they're fighting with the tongues. And
I
they
hated
make the
that.
punching sounds.
Hated it. Hate that. The tongue stuff I could do without. It's so gross to me. I like the face on the tongue. I remember
that's the point.
I remember so being so grossed out every time I go to Blockbuster, and I'd walk around the edge, and all of a sudden there's this new fucking Thumbmation, whatever parody
Thumb
of
Wars?
this thumb with a face on it, and all
Franken-thumb?
yes, all of them. They were always there, and it always just creeped me out. This idea of human body parts coming out of a
From the mind of Steve Oedekerk.
yeah, and he just forces that into this movie too. That the chosen one. The only significance that you're the chosen one is that you have a face on your tongue, and it serves no other purpose, right?
No, it doesn't serve any purpose except to be the mark of the chosen one.
It does the crazy elastic.
It's a third
Frogger,
act rectal extraction.
Yeah.
C.L. Osbone asks if the scenes where Ling is flashing the chosen one were part of the original footage. No, it was not.
And because
that was a body double.
I thought at one point it was real. So I'm with you. At the scene where they kind of she kept doing it in the one-on-one, but then they did one where it was really pulled out, and they were just standing there.
Take me, man meat.
And she, in the span of walking 20 feet, she does the disrobe 4 times in a row, just really fast.
I'm wondering if subliminally that's where the picking up and putting down the rock in that fly footage movie we did came from.
Hey, connection. Go watch our Fly short. It's very similar to that joke.
I'm starting to wonder if I'm not original at all. But I did come up with that when playing around with the footage. I wasn't thinking about Kung Pao.
So I'm just going to reel off a couple things as we wrap up. So the hole in the guy I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
When he got a hole literally
Stomach
punched
plug.
through him. I thought that was really good.
I'm no doctor, but that was one clean chunk.
You've got them all. I thought there was one scene where they're doing really fast zooms, zooming into
so
people's
funny.
faces for a while. That was funny.
One addition is when the guy tries to do that smoke bomb and nothing happens, and he's like, do you remember that part?
No, I don't,
Okay,
actually.
it's after he initially beats up all the bad guys in that same scene, and the head bad guy throws one of those pyramids on the ground. It makes a puff of smoke, and then nothing happens.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the guy goes,
There was. This is way funnier than. Okay, there was one scene where they were talking about one of the like apprentice fighters or something, and they were in this big room, and of all the
wrong as a joke.
we purposely trained him wrong as a joke. Such a funny line. Then there was the
With
guy
squeaky shit.
the trust me, he'll cut off your big toe, and then you see his bloody foot, and then it's
On that, I
gone
can
later.
promise you.
And then it's gone later.
Ooh, that's tender.
That was really good.
It's time for his nap.
And then the ventriloquist thing I thought was really funny. Where they throw the voice and I'm the chosen one. I'm the chosen one outside the wall.
And he's actually throwing his voice.
Yeah, he's trying to throw it out there.
Your ventriloquist tricks will not work on me.
And then the last one was the hands, where it was like really slow, and she's, does it hurt now?
She pours liquid mercury on his hands.
She keeps just he's just like, nope, this doesn't hurt. So yeah,
I could point out several lines which I love so much, but the one that will stick with me to the grave is when those guys are chasing after Ling or something, and there's a group of them, and one of them goes, "You go that way, I'll go home." I don't know why that's so funny to me, but it is.
There are a lot of like peripheral characters that they work in with the different voices and stuff.
And Steve Oedekerk is all those voices.
He's all of them.
Except for the one boob chick.
Except for her. And then we haven't even talked about the background, who doesn't have any lines, but the background dancing guy.
Oh yeah, he's the MVP.
He is. I even in just watching the highlight reel that is running behind us on the green screen, there were clips where they put him in, and I totally missed it. I totally missed some of the subtle, like just like the teeters back into frame, and he's there dancing.
Can we
boombox.
take a moment to appreciate how genius it is to have people kung fu fighting to "You Can't Touch This" by MC Hammer?
See, I think in the moment.
It doesn't click right away, does it?
It doesn't click, but like I don't know, the music stuff is funny, maybe because I remember it a little bit better. But like I feel like that kind of like the cow dates it, like very quickly dates it. But it was still pretty funny.
Did you know that speaking of "You Can't Touch This," which uses a sample from Rick James, I didn't know this until fairly recently, a couple of years ago. But Rick James and his girlfriend like kidnapped somebody and tortured them for like a week.
Was it Steve Oedekerk?
I don't know, but it was part of some huge coke binge.
Oh,
and he went to jail for it, I think. Good song though.
Yeah. Well, Aaron,
what was that other thought you had?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. We've hit 28 minutes, Aaron.
I can't believe we've gotten this far.
Is there any final thoughts you want to do, or do you want to go straight into our ratings?
Tiger. That's it.
Okay. I'll go first because this was your cup of tea, so you can go after me. So watching this movie, I would say it kind of had the impact that the movie Mandy that came out last year had. Which is like indie Nick Cage movie that is just like off the walls, crazy,
stupid,
not funny. It's not
like this.
But it's just crazy. And I tell people that 50% of that movie I loved just so much, and the other 50% I could not have hated more. I don't know if it's the same split for this one. It's polarizing to me even within the movie. But
it's a paradox because everyone I talk to who knows this movie is like, "Oh yeah, Kung Pao," and then it's got like a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Like, this is one of those for me that falls closer into the kind of like how you would rate a bad movie, but there's a different scale for how much you enjoy it.
Right.
But with that said, the jokes are pretty funny. I'm giving it a 3, which isn't very high. but that's not very good.
No.
And if you just look at the number, but for me, this has at least, I don't know what it would, it's at least a 5. It's at least like a positive experience for me personally. If I was to tell somebody else, like, you got to go see this movie, it's too much of a polarizing thing to and even in the jokes that we're laughing hysterically on, some of them are just like, those are just jokes like maybe we just like.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a different scale for this one a little bit.
Oh, of course.
But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
There's a curve.
Yeah.
And speaking of curves, I had that little graph I wanted to tell you about. When it comes to this movie, you'll find it has to do with your IQ. Let's just say it, if you're smart or not. And you'll find that in this movie, the closer you are to average IQ, you enjoy it less. So it's better to be very smart or very dumb when watching this movie, because then you will really like it.
Where do you fall then, Aaron?
All right.
I guess you can't be average IQ.
There's no way to tell which end of that curve I'm on. So I'll say I'm on one of those curves, smart or dumb. You decide. But this movie is very important to me, not only because it's just stupid fun. Like, it speaks to a lot of what we used to do when I was a kid. We would, like, turn on old movies, like on the TCM channel, mute it, and then, like, speak words into their mouth for fun. And that's a lot of what this movie is. The
best part to me is the dubbing.
Yeah.
And not just the comedy of being off, but the writing and the jokes and
they actually say some
the
funny
voices
stuff.
and stuff. Like, there's some good jokes in there.
Yeah, like
legitimately.
Wee-oo.
There was one time she just, I think you even just like makes a sound filled with. Yeah, that was it.
Side note, but when the Nintendo Wii U came out, people would take the pictures of the console and just put a picture of Ling next to it. Those were good times. Back to my rating. It's also a thing, this is way into my wheelhouse because it's visual effects heavy, and it's a lot of smart visual effects.
Totally, yep.
So this is kind of like a perfect storm of what I like.
But also not like, it's not like Marvel visual effects.
No, it's more like clever tricks.
It's in the range of like, oh, I can appreciate that and leverage it. Like, it's so simple almost that
art through adversity is what I would call it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Like even back there in the footage behind you when Master Tang chokes on the moth twice. What are the odds of that? Anyway, as a movie, I would rate this movie lower than you did. I'd give this like a 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I bumped mine up from a 2 since yesterday.
And I understand
but, okay.
it.
Yeah,
I get it. But as a film, yeah, it's like a 2, 3, a 1 perhaps. But if we're rating on how hard my rib cage hurts after this movie is over from laughing so hard, it's like an 8 or a 9. Mm-hmm. Like if you take the cow out, like Shin Naraku said, it's nearly perfect.
The cow really brings it down. And talk about adding just like, not only is the tongue and the rest of that stuff just like kind of uncomfortable.
The tongue is relatively inoffensive.
The stuff with the cow, he's just like milking it and just getting...
The one where he's like tweaking the nipple.
Yeah, I just couldn't do that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's early 2000s gross out humor for you.
Steve...
He's on the record as saying...
Should we just make this our longest episode ever, Aaron?
You know what? I don't think we should.
Keep it going. The last thing I want to say is that Steve... This is the stupidest thing. If you've been paying attention to our podcast and have listened to every episode, you'll know that at least one other time, probably twice, I've brought up my irrational dislike of characters of people who keep their mouths open all the time. And
mouth breathers.
Elizabeth Banks is the first one that I have an irrational dislike of because I don't think I've ever seen her mouth closed entirely for like more than a second. And Steve Oedekerk...
I just now realized that.
Steve Oedekerk is... in calm, he's better than she is, but anytime there's like an action sequence, his mouth is always open in this like comedy...
Right.
Like
very Ace
facial
Ventura.
Exactly, yeah. And he's not Jim Carrey, and it just added a lot of, and most of the time when it was an action sequence, it was kind of like the action sequences weren't what was funny necessarily. The best
Right.
parts were the dub face swaps. So
right.
I just wanted to throw that in there as I.
Small aside, props to Steve Oedekerk for getting a little fit for this movie.
Yeah, he was in
He
good
put
shape.
the work in.
He was in good shape.
Writing, directing, producing, acting.
Learning how to do 48 backflips in a row. In like one.
Matt, before I forget, you wanted to cover our mid-year ratings for the movie
why
scores.
not?
And
Yeah.
what's it called? Our Oscars scores?
It's the movie draft.
Movie draft.
Sparker Madness movie draft.
knew
Let's
that.
just do the rankings.
The rankings, the total rankings.
Yeah. So we're basically halfway. We haven't done half of the movies officially. But
Hey, I don't have the lowest score.
no.
Amazing.
Wesley has the lowest score, but he's only had one movie.
Oh,
right?
that's why.
Yeah, he's only had one movie, but he's probably gonna win.
And I've
honestly,
had
he's
two
the best
movies.
movies. Yeah, but we're really filling out the scorecard. If you want to pay attention right
My
now,
God, Chauncey's mopping it up.
way in the lead, but he only has 2 or 3 movies left. And some of these scores are kind of outdated. I'm sure of Endgame has way more, but. We're working through. Last week we had Toy Story 4, which did very well for me.
Yeah, let me pull
That's
it up
one of
real quick.
two.
Look at that.
Yeah, it did
98, 95. Look at that
well.
spread.
I don't know if I would have rated it as high as that. But
Every Toy
you know
Story
what?
movie gets.
I'll take it.
Oh my God.
The box office wasn't as good as they thought, though. So not as many points. And then the other one was Child's Play, which was Ben, which did not do
well,
very
at least it's an even spread. So
yeah.
if the audience and critics scores are about the same.
Yeah. But so we're basically halfway. Obviously, the second half of the year is where
It's going to be my time.
Well, I think you may be screwed, Aaron, because Sonic. I
Sonic?
don't think Sonic is coming out this year.
Sonic is no. Oh yeah. Oh no. Sonic. And I wanted them to keep him looking bad.
Yep, you did.
I like the bad. Sonic is supposed to be bad.
Depending on when we cut this off, it may fit. We may have to do a rule that it counts. But if it doesn't,
It counts posthumously.
If it doesn't come out before the Oscars,
They said it's like February or something. Now that I remember,
it's going to be close.
it's next year.
It's going to be
They
close.
pushed it back again.
Yeah.
I remember now. I am upset. But okay,
it's
but
so
Joker, I bet you Joker's going to do pretty well.
Joker. I think Joker will do great.
Did
too.
you know that I have read supposed leaked scripts of that movie?
Yes, you
And-
sent them to us.
No, I sent you a synopsis
Oh, you've
from
actually
someone
read
who
the
said they
script.
saw a screening. I found script pages, and if they are to be believed as being real, I was reading through them and being like, huh,
Pretty good.
yeah,
All right.
I'm excited for it.
Well, we'll have to see how the rest of the rankings pan out. Obviously,
When I win, I will be gracious.
once Sonic wins 14 Oscars, then you'll have a chance. Anyway, I have no idea what movie. I may not even be here next week, and I would definitely won't be here
Right.
the week after.
If
so,
we can't do the show on Tuesday, you'll be without us.
yeah, so it'll be dealer's choice, I think.
Ben and I may do something even more off the wall than this.
Yeah, so definitely have to tune in. And if you definitely do what the initial tag said in terms of subscribing, and if we also have a Patreon, so definitely pay for that so that we can make Steve Oedekerk movies.
Dude, small thing. I have small delusions that someday we'll get guests on this show of like high celebrity caliber.
Steve Oedekerk?
He would be one of the people way up on my list to invite on.
And
He strikes me as one of the guys that would do it.
do you think how many subscribers do you think we need? Should we make this a campaign?
Yeah, if we get to 10,000 subscribers, 10 million subscribers,
How many do you think we need, Aaron?
I would say he would do it after if we got to like 1 million.
Would you say 10 million?
Sorry, I was a little behind on that. I almost had it.
10 million.
No, if we get to like 1 million subscribers,
I may
He may do it.
see if we can make this a thing.
Steve
for a little
Oedekerk, if
while
you're out there and you
make-
want to come to our really poorly fashioned home studio and talk with us for a while, we won't kill you.
Yeah, maybe he can give us some pointers. Anyway, thank you so much for the handful of you who are actually watching live, and
See you, Osborne.
and everybody for listening, watching after the fact. Until next week.
Till next week. Sorry, this is taking a minute to set up. Vamp.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.